In this video, we'll be making a front hip pocket. For this demo, you're going to need your pants front, your back pocket piece, which will be in the same fabric as your pants front, and then one pocket lining piece. This will be in either lining fabric or some sort of contrasting fabric. We'll start with our pants front and our pocket lining piece. Make sure at this point that you have transferred all of your markings. So there should be pocket placement markings as well as notches. This notch is very important. This shows where to line up your back pocket with the front of the pants. And if that's off, well, I'll show you in a little bit, but that can really change the size of your pants. So all these little markings are really important. Make sure you've got all of those. And the first thing we want to do, we're going to line up the pants with the pocket lining just right at the pocket opening. Okay, and you'll line them up. You put right sides together and you want to line up your pocket placement dots. So to do that, I really like using this method. So I take a pin and I'll just put it through my marking on the pocket lining, right? And then I'll stick that pin right in the pocket placement marking on the front pants. Pin that in place. And then do the same thing with the other marking. Okay, now we're ready to sew. And I'm just going to sew 5/8 of an inch. I'm going to go from the top raw edge, 5/8 of an inch, right along the pocket side, and I'll stop at this other marking. Be sure and press your seams out, and we're going to press it out so it just lays open, because next we're going to do some understitching. I've got my seams all pressed out. The next thing I want to do is some understitching. So I've trimmed down my seam allowance. I press my seams open, trim them down, and then just press them into the pocket lining. Now, when I go to understitch, I'm just going to stitch right as close as I can get to the seam, but on the pocket lining side. This will keep, this is going to keep my fabric from turning to the outside of the fabric. You won't be able to see this lining on the outside of the fabric if I've got it understitched, even after I wash that fabric or anything. So it's really good to do on the inside of pockets. And I've just stopped right at my pocket marking. It should look just like that. Now I'm going to fold my pocket piece to the wrong side of the pants. And I want to press this down so it lays nice and flat. Then I'll be ready to line up my pants with the pocket back. Okay, now that I've got everything pressed, I'm ready to line up my pants front with my pocket back. And this is where those notches really come in handy. So I'm gonna line up my notches for the pocket placement. Make sure your notches line up at the, let me zoom in a little bit. Make sure your notches line up at the top of the pants front. Just gonna throw a few pins in there. And don't worry that this part is open and unfinished right here. Remember, you have 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, so your seam is actually going to start right here and come down. So the first thing you could do is start off by just sewing your seam at the waistband. I would go just a little bit under your seam allowance. So it's 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, but you still have to get that waistband in there, and you don't want your seam line for your pocket to show up when you put the waistband in. So I would go 1/2 inch up here and then 5/8 of an inch down the side seam. You could even go less here because you will have to, if you were working on a pair of pants, you'd have to sew the side seam. So maybe 1/2 inch here as well. Just so when you go back to do that on your pants, you don't get any basting lines in the seam. So we're just going to baste here. So set your sewing machine to about a 5. And just do a line of stitching across the top. I'm going to stop right before my notch too, so I have enough room to sew the seam on my pocket. Just basting that while we go back and sew around our pocket. So just turn your machine back to about 2.5. Now, you're just going to lift up the front of those pants and just sew around your pocket piece, 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. can just stop and back tack when you get to your seam allowance. And then of course go back and serge your pocket pieces together. Okay, so now everything's serged together. Back should look like this. Front, this is your pocket. And that is a front hip pocket.